Hi and welcome to today's video. I'll be talking about .NET 5 and C# 9. As you may have noticed, I did not call it .NET Core 5. It's going to be named .NET version number onwards. So it's more or less just .NET Core 5, but its naming is now .NET 5 because Core is no longer going to be. It's going to be one product going onwards. So with that, let's just jump right into it. So let's go into the code here. So let's start out with the records. Records is a new, if I just close this, is a new immutable type that cannot be changed after it has been created. But instead, it is more lightweight to work with. So if we look at the normal way, we have a person class here, and we compare them to see if they're equals, which they're not, because that's how classes work. So if you just start the debugger, let's just here choose records and start. I can actually see that in my debug write line, they are not equal. And I can go in and I can change the age to be 2 without any problems. So my person class is just described as we used to, creating a person, first name, last name, age, and all that kind of stuff. So if I just expand again, I can see I have a person record, Alice and Alice2, with the same fields. If I just step over, these will actually be equal to each other because they have the same property values, because it is comparing by value instead. So if you can see here, Alice1 is actually the same as Alice2. So if I just minimize this, I can see my person record is actually pretty slim. I only describe it as a string, first name, last name, and an age. And here's another way to describe a record a bit more as we're used to. I have a student record with the same properties, first name, last name, and age. So if I create a student Alice with the same values, once again, they're actually equal to each other because they have the same property values, and it's compared by value. But if I create a teacher with an extra field, property, wage, they're actually not going to be equal because the properties and fields are not the same. So that's actually one of the ways to work with these records. What I like the most is describing it as a one-liner instead of having these massive files with properties, getters, and all that kind of stuff, because you're only actually interested in this one line. You don't want to have all this boilerplate code for describing your DTOs and stuff like that. It's pretty neat, and as I said, it's immutable. So if I just stop the debugger, I can actually not change Alice1 dot age equals 11, and I can actually see compiler is actually going to complain about it. So that's actually pretty neat. Some other new stuff is pattern matching in C# 9. So if I go in here, just change the debugger to be pattern matching, I can actually see I've made an extension method on char to check if it's a letter. So here I'm just checking if X is a letter. So if I go down to the implementation, I can see some new keywords like is, and, or. So it's pretty much what you're used to. So if C is greater or equals to A, and is below or equals Z, or uppercase version of it. And I've also made it is, letter, or separator, so you can see it a bit more advanced example. If C and all of this, or all of this, or dot or comma. So it's just a new way of writing these kind of patterns. So if you just attach the debugger again, I can actually see X is actually a letter. That's okay. So I've also created another method here. String is null or empty, also using pattern matching. So you can see here, I'm just string is null or empty. So if S is not null and not empty string, so you can also use the not keyword. So it's just a new way of writing it, and you can include them in your if statements and pattern matching. It's just going to get used to. I'm not really sure if I like it or not right now, but I can see the use cases for it. And I can see maybe new developers might like this syntax better than what we're used to with and, or. So, and yeah, here's just a sample where I run through the empty string. So if we just run through. So right now it's null, it's not going to print A. Now it's string empty, it's not going to print B. And now I give it a value and it's going to print C. Just to see the code actually works. So that's pattern matching. Another cool thing is the new keyword here. So if we just go up and change here to new. So we're used to say, for example, var list name is equal to new list and then the values. So now it's the reversed, so you can put list and what type it is and just say new and then the values. And your IDE will already know it's a new list of ints. You could also use it as creating default objects. So you can see here I have an output options parameter. So look at the method. This is the method. So it expects to get some options how you want to output this. So I can just say new if I just want the default options. I don't want to change anything. And I can see the use case for this is many places where there's some options are similar and you just want default behavior. You can just say new and you don't really have to specify what it is. The compiler and IDE just knows it. So in this case the default will be not to print. Here I'll make, again as we saw with the list, output options, new, and just say true. And I can actually also use it with the constructor and say some new true. So it's just a new way of writing code. Again, it's going to take some get used to, but I can see actually some use cases makes code more readable. And even some cases actually less readable because, for example, in this case, I actually don't know what new is. So if I get a pull request with this new true, I would have no idea what is happening here. So that would perhaps be better to have actually output options and put it in here and just use it like this. But again, it's just going to take some getting used to, and there's some good and bad use cases for it. But that's pretty much all for it. Some other stuff is, if I just bring over the API stuff and take that at last, is init only setters. So if I just go up here, init only setters. So I have a product and I set the name and the price of the product, but I can actually, this time I cannot change the name. Because it's only on init I can change it or set it. So if you can see here, I can see the error. If I go down to the class, I can actually see I have this new keyword init, so it's only when I'm creating a new product that I can set it. And that's pretty neat, because then it's immutable. Then I can't change the value of the stuff, and it's pretty useful because so you don't manipulate the same fields again and suddenly get another behavior. So when you first created this project, you know it's going to be the same all the way through, and you can have some side effects calling external libraries and stuff like that. And again, when you then validate, then you're actually sure that product will never be changed. So this is just an example how to validate. So it's pretty neat. It's the same stuff that is underneath record types, that they are mutable by default, that you cannot change something that has already been created. So another awesome thing in .NET 5 is actually that per default now Swagger documentation is included. So if I just share an image here, so we can see here is the template for .NET 5, enable OpenAPI support, and this is checked per default. So now you get Swagger included in all your new projects, unless you actually don't want it. And if we just look at it, if I just remove the image again, it is actually done, so it's only included when in debug. So it's not included in your releases unless you actually want to move this out of debug, or sorry, in development. So I actually think that's pretty neat, because that's one of the first things I always do for new projects is add Swagger, because it just helps a lot of debugging. You can just use Swagger to enter your request. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about today is lightweight web APIs. So if we go in here, you can see in my use endpoints where we normally have routing, we can actually get and make all the logic inside here. And then the new thing that's been added is extension methods to write as JSON async. So I create a weather forecast, and then I just return it as JSON. I've made a small comment, so you can see read from JSON and write as JSON is the new extensive method. And then you can also use allow anonymous, so you can make all your logic inside of use endpoints. I can see a use case for this if you're writing really small microservices. You just have like 2 or 3 endpoints. So instead of having a lot of boilerplate controllers and all that kind of stuff, you can just write your logic in here, and then you don't really have to have that bigger project. So you can see here, my project is more or less just response model, and then my startup and my program. So you can make it really lightweight, and you can see you can have authorization or authentication included, so you can actually have it secure and all that kind of stuff. And you can have it really lightweight. You don't have to use all the other bloat that's inside there. So it's all in all pretty neat. There's of course a lot of stuff I haven't talked about. There's a lot of quality of life stuff for Blazor. There's been done a lot of performance optimization and making packages smaller, so you can have really lightweight Docker images. But all in all, I think it's really cool with .NET 5 and the way they're going. And there's been a lot of talk about making actually web APIs even smaller and even quicker. So it'll be cool to see what .NET 6 is going to come with. Only time will tell. And that's all for today. Thank you and goodbye. Please like and subscribe so I can grow my channel. Bye.